from Ohio to help kick off this housing-focused tour. We are also joined by my wonderful colleagues, Mayor John Giles of Mesa and Mayor Corey Woods of Tempe. The U.S. Conference of Mayors has said that housing is our top priority. That was a leadership decision from our president, but one which I completely agree with. We are hoping that the next administration will focus on housing. The conference is touring the country to highlight success stories and opportunities for more investment, and we are so honored to welcome the conference and its incredible staff to the city of Phoenix. I got to pick where we kicked it off, and so am very pleased to have picked this wonderful project, which is an Atlantic development project in the city of Phoenix. We are joined by the leadership team of the property management company, Celtic Properties, as well as Atlantic Development, and thank you to the incredible CEO, Jessica Raymond, who has been our partner on so many projects throughout the city of Phoenix. To me, this project is a real success story. The city of Phoenix participated in the funding along with partners at the state and federal level. A lot of government had to come together to make this possible. Want to highlight a few elements that I think are really exciting about this project. It has units with multiple bedrooms up to 4, which makes sense for families. We have a lot of families that are multi-generational or with multiple kids, and so we wanted the chance to make sure they had great housing options. The project is in North Phoenix. It is very close to some of our top employment opportunities, including Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, currently investing $65 billion in the city of Phoenix. There are great employment opportunities. I got to meet a high school student who makes $95,000 1 year out of high school. So she might not need affordable housing. But how incredible to have an affordable housing project near great employment. The best access to future economic opportunity is good jobs, and so it's important to me as mayor that we have affordable housing throughout the city of Phoenix, and this is a great example of a project near a nationally important employment site, so we hope that residents get the chance to get access to those jobs. This is an area where we've been investing a lot in both the city level and the state level. Prop 479 will invest more in improving freeway access in this area. We just finished a light rail extension to this area, so a lot of investment in a really exciting part of the city of Phoenix. One of the things we believe as mayors is that you ought to have flexible housing tools so that you can address local challenges. We receive federal funding for housing choice vouchers, and as the City of Phoenix Council, we get to decide some priorities in that area. One thing where Phoenix has really been a leader is making sure we have housing for residents who have experienced human trafficking. Unfortunately, that is a real challenge in our country, and if you've been through a trafficking experience, you may need additional support services. That is very traumatic. So we, as the City of Phoenix, unanimously decided that was one of our priorities. Different cities throughout the country have other specialized priorities. Another priority of ours is supporting domestic violence victims. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but we need to do more than awareness. We need to make sure we have solutions. And so this property is home to people who have unfortunately experienced domestic violence and has support services to help people heal and succeed. You can even see that in the art. The beautiful art is made by artists who understand trauma and who want to create a supportive environment to move forward. Unfortunately, the City of Phoenix does not receive as many housing choice vouchers as we can use. The formula is antiquated, and so cities that are a fraction of our size receive more than we do. The conference is calling on the federal government to update those allocations and give more, particularly to some of the cities where the need is very great. You can see one of the incredible results of that investment, and we would love to do more here. So we really are excited about the potential. The country, in small communities and large, sunny states and cooler states, are all unified that we need more housing options, and we hope as mayors to be a strong voice for that as a priority in the next administration. I want to next bring to the podium our leader of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, who is so dedicated to making sure every one of our residents has a great place to call home. Please welcome Mayor Ginther.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego, and just so excited to be here today, kicking off a trip across the country. We will be in Phoenix today, Philadelphia on Thursday, and Detroit next Tuesday. Because regardless of where you are in America, housing is the most important issue facing our country, and certainly the cities across our country. And so I'm just grateful to Mayor Gallego for hosting us, and to Mayors Giles and Woods, and I want to acknowledge our President and CEO of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Tom Cochran, and the entire conference staff for all of their great work. You know, today we're here to talk about an issue that is important to Phoenix, but to every city across our country, north, south, east, and west, and that is the housing crisis we're facing in America. Access to housing is consistently the #1 issues that mayors cite when we ask about the big challenges facing their cities. It's a challenge that impacts every corner of the country, every political persuasion, every rung of the socioeconomic ladder. First-time home ownership is at a record low, and only 1 in 4 households who are eligible for rental assistance receive it. We know there's not a Republican way or a Democratic way to create housing opportunities. We need a path forward where everyone from all walks of life work together to put families and cities first. And that's what we're calling for. We want to work with whoever is elected president and make housing the #1 priority in the next Congress. We want, as our second Vice President Todd Gloria talks about, a Marshall Plan for housing, an unprecedented investment in housing at every price point, because we know this supply crisis are affecting people at every economic ladder. We know of the contributions the housing crisis is making to homelessness and to family instability, and the pressure points that particularly seniors and folks on fixed incomes are feeling because of this supply crisis. This incredible project that we got to visit and talk with some families here this morning about really reimagines what people think of when they picture affordable housing developments. It's proving that we can create affordable housing stock that people can be proud of and that can strengthen communities. What we've got here is remarkable. I know it's just part of what you're doing, Mayor Gallego, in partnership with so many others, to build a more sustainable, welcoming, thriving community for all. The reality is mayors and cities can't do all this work on our own. We need a comprehensive approach across all levels of government. That's because this issue hits everyone. The cost to rent or own a home is beyond the reach of many, and as a nation we need to respond. Rising rents are the result of a failure in the housing market to produce affordable housing, combined with the historic lack of federal investment that spans 4 decades. The bottom line is this: we need more housing, and we need more units that are affordable for low and middle income families. We need more market rate housing. We need more workforce housing. As you may know, we have an election coming up. I know the people of Arizona are very much aware. No matter who wins, the U.S. Conference of Mayors will be leading a charge for historic new federal housing legislation that spurs investment in housing like never before. We need to do things like expand existing programs such as the low-income housing tax credit, housing choice vouchers, project-based vouchers, and reimagine home block grants to attract private capital to affordable housing for our low-income neighbors. But it's also time to innovate and expand our housing stock. To do this, we need significant and flexible federal funds to come directly to cities for gap financing, credit enhancements, interest rate buy-downs, and the ways cities can tailor subsidies for housing. Each metro housing market is different, and we need flexible funding we can deploy quickly to meet the needs in these diverse markets. There's an old saying around America, If you want something to get done, give it to mayors. Mayors know how to get things done. There's not a Republican or Democratic way to pick up the trash. I normally say plow the streets, but that's probably not an issue here in Vegas. But it's something critically important because the American people trust mayors. They trust those who are closest to them, who are focused on their neighborhoods and families. And so it's critically important that that funding be flexible and that it come directly to cities. We must also address the difficult barrier our younger people are having with being able to have enough down payment funds to buy their first home, such as with first-time homebuyer credits. Supply and affordability go hand in hand, but we need a larger commitment from the federal government and more innovation and flexibility so we can build homes faster and more cost efficiently. I'm so proud, the great communities around the country, and I would argue the world, are those that are acting regionally. The entire community, regardless of jurisdictions and municipal boundaries. These regions are critically important to the growth of our states and our country. And so I'm so proud to introduce a great partner, the great mayor of Mesa, Arizona, John Giles.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. I have to agree. Arizona and Maricopa County and the Phoenix Metro is a great example of regionalism and of mayors that work very closely together to attack our common problems. If you talk to mayors, they're going to tell you that housing, particularly in our region, is not an issue. It is the issue. It is we've got to elevate this issue as something that we prioritize and that we look for innovative ways to work with our federal partners and regionally to address these issues. Housing inflation, particularly in the Phoenix Metro, has been significant over the last few years, and it is through as a result of the pandemic and other things. I think our eyes have really been opened to realize that this has got to be at the top of our agenda. And as Mayor Ginther and Mayor Gallego have indicated, the good news is that we know how to solve this problem. Having walked through this very impressive, wonderful place to live, I mean, this is a model of how we address this problem. And the model is it's a partnership of local government, federal government, and private industry to create something that people would be very proud to live in, and something that is affordable and attainable for the vast majority of the folks in our community. And so, as Mayor Ginther indicated, we need at this time desperately for the federal government to increase investment in this problem. As mayors, we are going to be strong advocates, regardless of who wins this election, for an unprecedented approach to addressing this challenge. The low-income tax credit housing program that makes this available, those dollars are extremely competitive in Arizona, very highly sought after, and if we increased that program, you would absolutely see very quickly additional units just by that one program alone. This project is another example of using federal home dollars from HUD. And we use CDBG, Community Development Block Grant money, to rehab aging housing, and the housing choice vouchers that many of the folks in this community are able to use that pay for wraparound services like the after-school programs and the food programs and everything that makes this such a valuable place to live, a place that responds to the needs of the people that live here. Those are all federal dollars that come primarily through HUD and other agencies, but then they're managed through the city of Phoenix and the city of Mesa and the city of Tempe, because as Mayor Ginther indicated, we are acutely aware of the needs of this community and how to best respond to them. So again, the challenge here is obvious to all of us. Housing is just become unattainable for so many people in our community. But the good news is that we can be successful, and this program, this facility that stands behind me is a poster child of success, and that we know how to address these problems. So please join. We hope that those in the media will help us as mayors get this message across to the candidates certainly the national and state level, that this has got to be at the top of all of our agendas. The first thing that we need to address is what are we going to do about this national and regional housing crisis that we're experiencing. And I'm very optimistic. I mean, walking through projects like this and those in Mesa and Tempe as well are evidence to the fact that we know how to solve this. And so at this time, it's my honor to introduce my friend, and again, someone who works very closely with Mayor Gallego and I, and is very successful in addressing these issues, is my friend Mayor Corey Woods from the city of Tempe, Arizona.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Giles. First of all, I wanted to thank Jessica Raymond and the incredible team here at Atlantic Development and Celtic Property Management for showing us this beautiful facility, and I will give you a big round of applause for that. The thing I love most about this development, and one of the things I love most, is that if you drove by this property, you would have no idea whether it was a market rate development, a workforce housing development, or an affordable housing development. And that's exactly how it should be. All we're talking about doing is trying to find ways to build beautiful, high-quality units for anyone in our community who wants to live, work, and play in the greater Phoenix metro area. And the thing I love about this development is that, as Mayor Giles alluded to, anyone who currently lives in this project and for future residents of this project, they will be exceptionally proud to be here. And that makes me, it's just a huge testament to the work that Jessica and her team have done on creating such a beautifully crafted development that's going to really stand the test of time for decades to come. So I wanted to thank her very publicly. Wanted to thank Mayor Ginther as well for putting housing at the top of your agenda as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. As Mayors Gallego and Giles talked about, housing is not just simply an issue, it really is the issue. We see that issue in the city of Tempe all the time, where we have a landlocked community of only 40 square miles. Every single piece of land in the city of Tempe seems to already be developed, and we're trying to find ways to redevelop that property to really fit the needs of people who are here today and the residents of the future. And the challenges we're going to continue to face are trying to make sure that we can do that sometimes in the face of opposition. We know there have been challenges sometimes when it comes to statewide zoning. There have been challenges, though, many times when it comes to making sure that you push back when people come to you and say, we don't want this. I've talked to residents many times who've been in communities for 20, 30, 40 years. If you obviously moved to the greater Phoenix metro area a long time ago, there were far fewer people. There were fewer taller buildings. And I understand how some people might really like the fact that that's how life was at one point. But the fact of the matter is Maricopa County is one of the fastest growing counties in the entire country. In the city of Tempe alone, we estimate there will be an additional 72,000 people by the year 2050. So we can't just simply stand pat with the housing stock that we have now. We have to create new housing stock in all of the different categories: rental, home ownership, affordable, workforce, and market rate, to really ensure that anyone who wants to live or work here has the opportunity to do so. And many times that means you are going to face opposition from people who are concerned that their way of life is changing, or that there might be a few more people here. But the reality is, as mayors, we know how to spend dollars. We know what the needs of our community are now and into the future. We have to always make sure that we are utilizing the best existing data to make decisions on what we have to do in terms from a public policy standpoint. But many times we're going to have to continue, as all of the mayors up here have done, is continue to push back when you hear people talk about, we don't need to build more housing. We don't need to talk about focusing on housing supply. There is a proven direct link when it comes to increasing housing supply and finding ways to stabilize the cost of housing and also bring the cost of existing housing down. So we have got to continue talking about the future and not the past. And I'm very proud to be up here with Mayor Ginther and Mayors Giles and Gallego to talk about exactly how we continue to do that. But it has to be a continued partnership between federal, state, county, and local governments to make sure that we can see developments like the one we're standing at happen. We have to continue to find ways to ensure that the federal government sends flexible but also plentiful funds down to us. Because as Jessica talked about during a portion of this tour, is that if there was access to more low-income housing tax credit dollars, quite simply there would be more units throughout the greater Phoenix metro area. And I tell people all the time, I had joined the city council back in July of 2008 in Tempe. If it was not for that low-income housing tax credit program, we wouldn't have built a single new unit of affordable housing in the last 15 or 16 years. That program is critically important, and all programs that help to fund housing supply are critically important. So we ask the federal government, regardless of who wins the upcoming election, to continue to partner with our local cities and towns to ensure that we have the funds and the resources we need to address this housing supply and housing affordability crisis. So once again, really appreciate each and every one of you being here and helping to amplify that message. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mayor Gallego. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Woods. You have made housing a top priority during your time, and you're a national leader, as is Mayor Giles. We are so lucky in the Valley to have such exceptional partnership and leadership. And now we're able to take some questions. And Jessica's willing to take questions about the specifics of the project. Jeremy.
Well, obviously, federal funding matters a lot for things like low-income tax credits, housing vouchers. What can cities do on their own? I mean, we've seen in the last couple of years a lot of city officials throughout the valley don't really want to do rezoning for both affordable or low-income projects. We've seen cities giving a lot of pushback at the state capitol on legislation intended to facilitate the construction of more affordable housing. I mean, given all this, what can cities do on their own without more funding?
Cities, so the question was, what can cities do on our own without federal funding? For all of us, we are trying to be very creative. In the city of Phoenix, we took a look at all of our property and said, what is available for affordable housing? You're seeing new housing near the airport, at some of the most prestigious corners in our downtown, such as 7th Avenue in Washington. We have property available, which we are going to prioritize for affordable housing. At the city of Phoenix, we have made several different policy changes to make it easier to build housing. For example, we passed an ordinance for backyard casitas, also known as accessory dwelling units. Ours was more focused on housing than the state. We said they have to be used for long-term residency. The state then preempted us and said it could be party houses or short-term rentals. So that would be an example of where we were really saying housing is the top priority, and the state went in a different direction. We at the City of Phoenix in the last years have started new programs, including landlord incentives. We want to make it so that landlords feel comfortable and that they can profit if they take their rental property and put it forward. We had a time period where vouchers were not meeting the market rate, and so we really had to step up and make sure those vouchers got used. I'm happy to let other mayors talk about what they are doing, but we have a 10-point plan at the City of Phoenix about things we can do. But I think what you see here today is if the federal government steps up, we can do even more. We are going to make progress at the city level alone. We at the city in the last 5 years have done 10 new programs. The federal government hasn't done a major new program in a decade. We loved low-income housing tax credits. They changed the market. You're seeing what can happen with that program at this location. But it's time for innovation and to make housing a priority, and that's our call at the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
So in the city of Tempe, to Jeremy's question, we actually started a program in late January of 2021 called Hometown for All, which was designed to produce a system and a structure to create more affordable and workforce units in our city. To date, we've had that program in existence for a little over 3.5 years. There's been $9.4 million in city investment and $22 million in cash and pledges from developers to help us create that next generation of affordable and workforce housing. We are actually also, this coming November 5th, have a bond question on our city ballot, which will actually, if approved by voters, will actually give $32 million additional dollars for the city to do more acquisition and rehab work to further accelerate some of our existing efforts. We've also even gone out and acquired shopping centers in 2 different portions of our city. One along Apache Boulevard, which is where our light rail is, where the city spent $10.6 million acquiring a site. And we're now going to be building up to 400 units of mixed income housing, along with trying to find a grocery store and other compatible retail that will service the residents in a very hotly developed corridor. And we also recently, at the end of June, purchased another shopping center well in North Tempe, which was an area that historically hadn't had the same levels of investment, but we're going to be trying to do the same thing there. We're going to be doing at least 50 units of affordable housing, some other mixed income housing there as well, along with a grocery store and a police station and training facility. So there are a lot of things that we can do when you set your heart and your mind to actually trying to find ways to address this crisis. We need the federal government to continue to be a partner and to give more money to mayors and to local governments to make sure that we can actually address those needs in a very proactive fashion. But cities absolutely have the responsibility to step up in the meantime and do whatever we can to make housing a reality for people that need it. And I'm proud to be up here with all of these mayors who really made this a top priority, and that's why we're seeing so many good things happening in our respective cities.
The only thing I would add in our visit to the Hill to start to talk about this with senators and members of Congress, they made very clear that the only way there would be this unprecedented investment from the federal government is if zoning codes and land use policies were updated to really make the most of this investment. And so I think that's something as a conference we're continuing to focus on. Many mayors, we have just undertaken the first rewrite of our zoning code in 70 years. And in Columbus, that means just in our major transit corridors, the old code, we would have brought 8,000 units online in the next 10 years. With the new code, 88,000. They're game changers, and codes are critically important to the future of our cities. And I think, quite honestly, until we take the lead there, the federal government is going to be resistant to invest the way we need them to. And so disruption and innovation is another place that we're focused on as a conference, and trying to figure out ways that we can get more housing units in the pipeline faster. And it's critically important that we embrace disruption and innovation in ways that we never have before with respect to housing. We're going to launch a regional public-private partnership embedded at our regional economic development organization this fall. So you'll have the city, the county, the state, the private sector all investing. The one missing partner, the federal government. And that's why this push is so important, regardless of who the next president is.
Thanks so much for joining us.